Jackie's glasses are almost teal. They are teal.
I don't have anything teal.
Those are close.
That's close enough.
That's close.
No.
Oh, my buddy. Dent.
I have a
Dent
sweatshirt,
It's chilly.
but I didn't think that would be appropriate today.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's City Council workshop portion of our meeting. We're happy to have you here with us. We would ask if you would please silence your cell phones. And workshop is a time for council to have presentations from staff and to discuss today's agenda, as well as try to get some executive session items out of the way. Good morning, Ruben. And first, I will ask council if there are any agenda items that we want to discuss before the meeting begins at 10 a.m. Okay, there being nothing, I am going to ask on the agenda if we can take 2024-60 and move it to the first item on our regular agenda so that we can be respectful of people's time. If that is okay with council, and that will just move that up to, and we'll make that amendment when we approve the agenda today. So there being no discussion about today's agenda, we will move to our first presentation. Brian Tucker will talk with us about Porcher Drive and the Ocean Forest Memorial update.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. This will be a fairly brief information and we can discuss and get some direction and path forward. Several meetings ago, Councilman Louder asked us to re-engage and re-look at this. I think if you all recall, about a year ago, just over a year ago, you heard a couple of presentations from Mr. Hyman about a potential monument to Ocean Forest Hotel in the original roundabout that was associated with the hotel. I think the conversation at that point was I think a lot of you and a lot of staff recognized the importance and significance that the hotel played in our history and sort of our coming to be. And we've looked at it a couple of different times. Candidly, it sort of was pushed to the back burner. We came back and looked at it again with sort of a new set of eyes. We still have really two frustrations or two points of concerns, if you will. One of them is cost, one of them is safety. The primary is safety. We are entertaining the idea of creating a monument in the roundabout without any pedestrian controls. And that's problematic. When you talk to our public works folks, you talk to our public safety folks, that's the biggest concern is how do we do it safely in that roundabout? The second piece there is ownership, cost, control. Currently, that roundabout and that portion of Porcher, if you could go to the next slide, is owned by SCDOT. I know Ruben has had some conversations with SCDOT. We've had separate conversations with SCDOT. We're getting conflicting stories. DOT says that DOT has told Ruben that they would convey the roundabout only. When we have our conversations with DOT, they are telling us that they will convey the roundabout only if we take that portion of Porcher that you see highlighted there on the screen. That's about 2/3 of a mile. And if we were to repave it, when we go to repave it, you're looking at about $350,000 to $400,000 of today's dollars in doing whatever future work would need to be done. Again, based on just a pro rata per square foot or per linear foot, you're looking at about $12,000 worth of maintenance a year. So it's not necessarily the maintenance that's the concern, but there is the liability and the upkeep of accepting that road into the city system. We can't really come up with a way to safely put the memorial in the roundabout. I think we would need some guidance from you all on how far you want us to go down that road. To try, if that's a concern, we have entertained the idea of maybe a different location and maybe putting it in the Cabana section along Ocean Boulevard. If you go back to the aerial, the prior image. Basically, we would be putting it on the front side of where the Ocean Forest was, where we have some of the exercise equipment now. I think there's enough right-of-way for us to be able to do something along Ocean Boulevard that would be safer, number one. It would not necessarily require us to take any additional road, but again, needed some feedback and direction from you all on how you want us to move forward. I know I saw Ruben come in, so I don't, that's the extent of my comments, but happy to answer questions or try to talk through thoughts.
You talk about accepting a road and the maintenance it's gonna cost, how much it would cost to repave it. Well, every time we accept a road in the city of Myrtle Beach, don't we take those same?
We do.
Take on those same costs, right?
We do.
Whether it's a brand-new road or whether it's a road been around a while. And we've done that on a number of occasions.
We have.
At least that I'm aware of the last almost 15 years, right?
Do it on a regular basis.
So that part, I don't know what the real big concern would be there that I know of, and somebody can tell me different on this council or whoever. I don't know that there have been a lot of maintenance costs on this part of this road in years. And I don't know that traveling down it a few weeks back, maybe a month or so ago, I didn't see any real maintenance issues that need to be taken care of now. So that part, I don't understand about what's the real concern there with the staff. The safety concern, I'm not arguing a bit that there might be some concern for safety there. I wouldn't be able to argue it one way or the other, say it is or it isn't. But that road does not have a lot of traffic on it that I'm aware of anyway. And I'm sure if that monument was put there, that may create some traffic.
All right.
But that's just my feelings on
And
it.
and don't disagree with, not going to argue any of those. I think one of the thoughts in moving the monument to Ocean Boulevard would be that exactly. There's already more traffic on Ocean Boulevard that would make the monument maybe stand out more, be better exposed, and yeah, so that's a secondary reason for looking at it on Ocean Boulevard. But again, we will go at whatever direction you all advise.
Would it create any safety concerns on Ocean Boulevard?
No,
Ruben,
ma'am.
this isn't, workshop is not time for public comment, but we are happy to listen to you after we finish our discussion, okay?
No, ma'am.
Look, I love the idea of memorializing the Ocean Forest Hotel, just as much as you do, and many others. My two main concerns are safety in the roundabout, and we still have not heard who's paying for this. Just because we may be passionate about a memorial to the Ocean Forest Hotel does not mean that the majority of our residents are equally as passionate. And this is not like a military memorial that everyone can support and get behind, but we're asking taxpayers potentially, because I haven't seen a funding plan, to pay for something that doesn't really benefit them. And I think we should be open to other locations. I think the Cabana section makes much more sense because you already have walk-by traffic. And it still is a part of where that hotel stood. So I do think we should be open to other more safe locations. And I don't know if we shouldn't get the Cultural Resources Committee to look at this and get their recommendations. But the main thing that concerns me is that we have not seen a funding plan for this project.
So two comments there. Number one, one of the prior conversations on this subject, we did refer it, you all asked us to refer it to the Cultural Resources Committee. We've done that, and they have had, I think, a discussion or two on that, and I think that's where the idea of having it moved to Ocean Boulevard came from. And they can certainly continue to explore that if that's the will of council. And as far as the funding source goes, you are correct.
Who takes care of that circle now?
We get mixed answers to that
It
question.
can't be the state. It looks too nice to be the state.
Correct.
It doesn't look like it's
We have-
us.
We have been told that the HOA there at the villas, that's part of their maintenance agreement is to take care of the
Because
roundabout.
I think that's their entrance
Yes,
to the villas.
They have an agreement with DOT to take care of it.
that's our understanding.
I know just, and Ruben and I had this conversation, I had a lot of concerns about safety and roundabout. I know it's a high, when you see roundabouts, they're a traffic calming device, but oftentimes people in our area are not used to them, and so there are a lot of accidents around roundabouts. And the area along the beach there is a place I often run, and there's a lot of foot traffic there. So that also seems good to me because you would want people, you want traffic to be able to see something. And there's a lot of foot traffic in that area. So,
Brian, have there been any best guess cost estimates on this?
I think when we had the original conversation, I think Derek Mazingo, who Ruben had engaged, was estimating $250,000, but that's a complete guess at this point.
Right,
I think
right.
we would have to further define. I think the design that Derek had or has isn't overly elaborate. So I mean, I think that $250,000 is probably going to be in the right ballpark, but that's all we're doing at this point is looking at that plan and making an assessment.
Thank you.
How do you compare that cost to, I happen to be at Pine Lakes for Bible study Sunday, and outside they have the bronze markers memorializing certain people. What is that cost comparison?
I couldn't even begin to tell you. It's going to be less than 250,000, but I couldn't tell you by what degree. But again, happy to explore that. We're happy to continue to explore or have the Cultural Resources Committee explore Ocean Boulevard. We're happy to have our Public Works and Police Department explore how to make the roundabout safer if that's the will, but we just needed some direction.
You know, how are we going to, when you talk about safety, this is what's been in my mind is things like this, people tend to stop and want to get that picture and before they go back home. And I think that's the biggest thing right there in my mind is, you know, are people going to try to run over there in between traffic? And I mean, we might say that's not going to happen, Mike, but we know if you build a monument and it's nice and it's something they want to remember, you know, I've been here before. My granddad, grandmother stayed there, and you know, we want to get a picture of this and take back home, and that's it. I don't know how do you
I don't know how you solve for that.
you build a tunnel and you come up in the middle, or you know, it's
If we do that, the cost just
oh yeah,
increased.
yeah. That's it.
And we want to build something that people will want to
Oh yeah,
see.
you want to stop and
Yeah.
you take a picture by, and you know, so.
And I completely agree with several members here, because even though looks like it would be an ideal place for public safety-wise, I think it would create some problems. I'd rather see it in the Cabana areas myself. Again, the pedestrian traffic and everything, they can stop and actually read it and enjoy what it says and bring back memories or whatever their situation is and stuff. I just think it would be a better fit in the Cabanas myself.
I think we can all agree that it's a significant piece of our history. And that being able to pay it a proper respect is important, and just figuring
Exactly.
out how to do it safely. Okay, that seems to be what I'm hearing.
You know, I said to Brian along those lines, we don't have a museum. We don't have a place to honor what history we do have, and we do have a good bit of history in this area. So whatever happens with the future of the library, maybe we could consider making the lobby of it or something there as a place where we can do things like this.
Okay.
What is the consensus of council? Do we want staff to look at options in the cabana section? Do you want a cost analysis? What do we want? Because we need to give Brian some direction.
Let's have cultural arts do the full review and come up with some ideas and work with Ruben and figure out what's the best. And, I mean, it may be the best is in that traffic circle, it may not.
Ruben, we do welcome you to, because I see you raising your hand, and we want to hear you. Not that we would ever get away without listening to you today.
I just want to say
I
that
only hope not after about a year and a half.
the cost of the South Carolina historical marker, different text on each side, $2,740.
How much?
Those are the bronze.
2,740. Those are the, I don't think they're bronze. The silver one's just the state historical marker
Historical
thing.
markers, state historical.
Thank you, Greg.
Good morning.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Morning.
I've had nice conversation with you, some of you in the past, and I do disagree adamantly about the cabana section. If you've gone down that road, and Ms. Collins has said she runs it, there's a lot of walking and running and bike traffic there. If you're talking about congestion of people wanting to go over and take their pictures in front of it, you're gonna have congestion there completely. And it's gonna be dangerous, because I've seen people crossing the street just to go to the beach there because of the traffic that goes through there. And I ride that area almost every day except Sunday. And it is not a good place for it. The legitimate place is the roundabout. Why is the roundabout the legitimate place? Because it is the opening of going into the Ocean Forest history. Another thing too, the design, if you've looked at the dimensions and stuff, the design was meant so that the pedestrian traffic, if they parked on Calhoun or Poinsett, they would get out of their car and walk onto the property. It's big enough for them to take their pictures there on the right-of-way. They don't have to be out in the street to do it. So, and again, addressing the safety factor. I'm very aware, as again, this is an area where I ride my bike, and it has dog traffic, bike traffic, and very little driving traffic on Poinsett and on Calhoun and Portia. I'm not saying that it might not increase, but at least Calhoun is wide enough to have cars that will park, and then the people can walk down the side of the street to the attraction. I don't think just because the cabana section has a lot of driving traffic, and I'm not going to deny it probably does, but again, you've got to understand that. Go down there and see yourself. If you saw it, where are you going to park to run across the street over to the monument? There's no parking. If the parking's there, it belongs to the hotels that are across the street. There's none on the opposite side. There's barely a sidewalk there. So to me, that's the place for it, is the roundabout. Going to the, conveying the property to us from DOT. Brian said, I originally said that they will give us the property, and that was their beginning statement to me. But then after their engineers got involved, and I was talking to Barbara Wessinger, who is the chief counsel for the SCDOT, and she's been very helpful in pushing this project forward with her people. And so they came back to her, and they told her that they want us, by the way, Brian, I don't know if you forgot to say it or whether they mentioned that to you, but what the bottom line is, the Portia part and Poinsett part. They want us to take over those roads there. We already have Calhoun to ourselves. And again, as Mr. Lauder said, I ride on that road all the time. I've been doing it for over 10 years. I haven't seen one maintenance person out there doing anything because it's a less traveled road. Portia is. Very low traffic. Doesn't need anything. I think he addressed it that he went there and didn't see anything really wrong that needed any maintenance or either future maintenance that's going to cost a lot of money. And Portia's the same way. We're in a very established neighborhood. And it's not going to grow much more than what it is because most of the lots in that neighborhood have been taken and the housing is there. And as far as what I'm hoping it will do, the monument will draw the traction down Calhoun because that's where you can see it the most visible from 17. And if we do that, then the most likely place they're going to park is going to be on Calhoun, probably the widest street there is in Myrtle Beach, where they don't even call it a street, they call it a road. So I'd like for you to put the message to Brian today, let's get the SCDOT to convey the property to the city of Myrtle Beach, and let's get this project going. Going back to the cost again. The cost is approximately $250,000 for the monument. That has nothing to do with any of the things you would have to do landscape-wise around there. That was not included in the cost. But if you do the landscaping and leave some of it that's still there, and the monument was placed where the existing landscape could sit without having to change the landscape, but because we went into more detail to give it some locations for handicap access, and also some benches and some little small kiosks that had the history about the ocean forest there. They can be put there. Now, any additional cost, this is something I came up with later, is that how do you see the ocean forest at night? And then I looked at the site and saw that without running lines there, which I would not like to do, I came up with the idea, well, then let's do solar lights and have solar lights shine onto either onto the project or insert it inside so they come out from the ocean forest. That's the two options on that point. But please, today, tell Brian to go ahead and do the documents and file them to the SCOT so we can get this project moving. And the last thing is funding. In May, I was in the meeting at the Conway Preservation Commission, where they gave certificates for Dino Thompson and Jack Thompson and Bo Bryan for the presentation at the terminal for the Ocean Forest Hotel. If some of you might have gone, some of you might know about it. Well, they gave them certificates, and at that time, after the meeting, I stayed and talked to Ms. Platt, who was the president of that commission. And she told me she loved the idea and she wanted to do any help she could do to push it forward. And I said, I will contact you to let you know. And so I contacted her later and I spoke to her and she said, Reuben, do you think we need to go to Horry County to help see if they will take some money out of their pocket to help with this project? I said, hopefully that we can do it here. But if it's not, possibly, yes, we might want to do that. And that other time, Robert Shelley talked to two of the members of that council who loved the idea too, and they said they didn't see any problem where they couldn't at least kick in some money for the project. So there's some of your funding concerns, Mayor. And if you remember what I said in my first presentation here, when it came to money, when I was asked by the finance officer at that time, we gave her that figure, and I told you then, if I had to keep my tennis shoes on and run around and get the money, I will. I have got people interested already to kick in money if they have to do that. But I think, really, nothing against what you're doing downtown, Brenda, but if you can put $22 million into an art theater, a few $100,000 for a very iconic monument of the history of Myrtle Beach should not be a problem.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you, but that's an apples to oranges comparison. One is going to drive economic benefit. The other is going to be something for people to just go look at.
I'm not going to say that, I'm not comparing the two as far as what they are going to be done, but I'm comparing the amount of money that's being concerned about something that we should not have neglected years ago. And now we have a chance to make amends about something we should have done after we just passed the 50th anniversary of its implosion of the ocean forest in 1974. And I think we need to have the opportunity to put something there, because I don't know if some of you have been around long enough. Some of you know the history, and I do. I was raised here from the 40s, and I know the significance that that hotel had to the birth and the growth of Myrtle Beach. It was their vision at that time. And in fact, it was an article, and if you can go check, you can check me out if you want. There's an article in the New York Times commemorating the ocean forest as being one of the top resort hotels on the East Coast. And I think that's another reason why you should take in consideration of what we should do there. So let's go.
Reuben, thank you, and I don't think anybody up here is against honoring and memorializing the Ocean Forest Hotel.
Brenda, I know no one is against it.
This isn't a debate, okay? And I thank you for your comments and your passion. But we have to decide what direction we want to give to staff to take this. So I'm going to open it up to council. I thank you for being here to speak today, and I'm going to ask everyone how they want to proceed.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I really do. And I know your heart's in the right place. But let's see if we can do more than talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
I like Mr. Smith's idea about going to the Cultural Resources Committee. Let them do a study without too much economic impact on our staff. Also, maybe look at safety concerns, because that is a big concern. And that would be my recommendation. They come back to us, then we can make a more informed decision.
Exactly. I agree with that. I'd also like to see a concrete financial plan. People saying, yes, we'll help is not a concrete finance plan.
I thought at the beginning of this was going to be privately funded, but it doesn't sound like it is anymore. I still like the idea, but we got to make sure we do it right.
Anyone else?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, with Greg's idea.
All right. So that's the direction. This will go to the Cultural Resources Committee to look at considering safety, cost analysis, and potential alternative locations.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Reuben.
I will be at that meeting, by the way.
I have no doubt in my mind about that. All right, we're going to talk about a pedal pub franchise. Mr. Bruger?
Good morning, Mayor, Council.
Morning.
Try to keep it as quick as I can. The reason I'm before you is this would require a franchise to have a pedal pub here in town. And I've got the ordinance up here real quick. And so just the process, if you're not familiar, it's got to go to the city manager. address some concerns, which has been done, and now I'm bringing it to you for kind of lay out what the plan is and get some direction. So Global Leisure Management, who also runs a Skywheel, is the one that's bringing this plan forward. It's a woman-owned and led company. Been a good partner with the city. I've been there for 13 years. I'm not going to read the entire slides to you. There's over 50 pedal pub locations across the country. There's one in Columbia, Charlotte, Savannah, Wilmington, and Nashville. And if you're not familiar with it, this is what it looks like. Has a 16-person capacity, including what they call the pilot, which is the guy that steers it, or gal that steers it and drives it. Has brakes. It also has an electric motor in case the folks can't do all the pedaling that needs to be done to get it from location to location. It's got lights. It's got safety equipment on it as well. They propose the hours of operation start at 11 a.m., end at 10 p.m. 2 different tours. There'd be a public tour where you could go sign up, it's $39, and you could end up getting mixed matched with other people, or you could rent the entire thing out and do a private tour, which would be the other option. 2 different tours.
I'm sorry, you said
Yep.
2 tours a day?
No, multiple tours a day.
What did you?
But 2 different types of tours.
Okay.
You could do either a
Gotcha.
private one or sign up and you get
You
what
buy
you
a
get.
seat or you buy the whole.
There you go. Thank you. 2 different types of tours that they're going to offer. One would be a pub crawl. One of the things is all the tours starting and ending at Grand Strand Brewing, and then some of the sites there in the A&I in the downtown district, or a sightseeing tour, and you can see some of the locations that it would go to. Again, starting in Ants Plaza, then going down to the Boulevard after going to the A&I district as well. Just 2 quick maps. Here's the one of the pub crawl tour, and then the other one of the sightseeing tour. One of the big concerns that staff and I had was the pickup and drop off, obviously congestion, stopping in a lane of traffic, things like that. And so I've worked with Mandy on this, and we've got that resolved. They're going to be using parking lots, and so the pickup and the drop-off will not take place in the middle of the road or the side of the road. And so we've worked that out. And again, all of it starting Grand Strand Brewing, got the parking lot there in the back, and so it would begin and end at the same place. Oops. And this is similar things, some of the different locations that they would use as far as the getting on and getting off the pedal pub. And they've worked with some of the local partners, and some of them are here today with Mandy in support of this as far as, again, where they're going to be picking up and dropping off. Obviously, safety was the big concern that staff had on this. The chief has reached out to some of the other cities, and some of the concerns that the other cities had, they were able to work through. Picking up drop-off is one of them. There is no alcohol on the actual pub itself. City ordinance would prohibit that, number one. And then the other concern was intoxicated folks on the pedal pub as well, and they have that in their agreement, so that has been covered as well. And just some of the highlights that are there for you. The alcohol policy, similar to limos, party buses, it's not permitted on the pedal pub. If you do it, you'll be in violation of the agreement that they sign, and so they would not be allowed. They would lose their money and be gone from the pedal pub. And the pilot is in charge of the pedal pub, and so all their decisions are final. They would have a safety briefing before they did it. The pilots have communication devices, keep them on roads with speed limits less than 35. And then passengers would sign a waiver at the beginning, which would also lay out all of the rules. And then just to wrap it up, and then if you have questions, they've got a lot of support from the community, a lot of the partners down there in the area of the Boulevard as well as the downtown area. And I will be happy to answer any questions. Mandy is here as well and can come up and answer any questions or concerns that you may
Can you
have.
go back a
Yep.
few slides?
Which one?
To, right there, up the blue.
Yep.
Just give us time to look at this 1 second, please.
While they're looking at it, I have a question about the alcohol policy. And the first bullet point on the alcohol policy page says, similar to limos, party buses, and private vehicles, alcohol is not permitted on the pedal pub. Is alcohol not permitted in limos and party buses? That's correct? Okay. Never mind.
So many things I want to ask, but I won't.
Did anybody know you could not have alcohol on limos and party buses?
No.
That was the whole point of it.
Josh, how many of these vehicles are there going to be? Obviously, you can't make any money having one.
You want to come up, Mandy, real quick?
Hi, I'm Mandy Sabrandi, owner of Global Leisure Management, and we run the Skywheel.
Welcome.
Thank you. We would start with 2 bikes. We have tours starting at 11 a.m. and then alternating every half an hour with start time. And it's a 2-hour tour, so guests would only be on for 2 hours with 2 stops on the tour. So that really is to control also alcohol consumption. They would go to 2 stops if they choose to drink, if it's a drinking tour. We'll also have other crafted tours like sweets tours, coffee tours, brunch tours, things of that nature.
But your pilot is not drinking.
No, not at all, no. We call them the beerless leader.
Any other questions? Mandy? Okay, Josh, I have a couple of positive things and a concern.
Okay.
My first positive is knowing that the Skywheel is involved because I know how well you all are operated and responsibly. And I'm wondering if we consider this, has there been any discussion on public safety side of limiting the number that we would max this out at? Because we're talking about putting this on some already very congested roads. So do we need to say there's a maximum of 5 or whatever? I do like that it increases exposure to a lot of our local businesses, including some of our newer businesses. But I'm just curious if there's been discussions about limiting the number of vehicles allowed, and what are the concerns from the police department about putting these on congested roads?
So let me talk about the limit first. One of the things we talked about was similar to the golf cart moped ordinance, and that there is a limit, and certainly as part of this franchise, if it were to be granted, that we could do something similar, that there could be a limit on the number of franchises that city council will authorize. That certainly can be done. In talking to the chief about this, the biggest concerns were intoxicated people drinking on the pedal pub, and which can't happen by state, should not happen by state law. And then the other is being intoxicated and being on there. And to address the congestion concerns, that was really working out the parking lots so that we could work through so they're not stopping in the middle of the roads.
Does staff yet have a recommendation to make to us on if you want us to proceed to continue looking at this?
That's
or-
why I'm here today, to get some direction from you all if you have an appetite
I think
for
with
this.
the franchise, she said she wanted to start with 2.
It's correct.
Is that right? So
That's correct.
if we franchise 2, then there could be no more than 2 until someone came back to us and asked for another one or more. So I think we're the limiting factor
Correct.
by default.
Correct. And this being really a new operation, I mean, we can set it how we go to address those concerns that they're not everywhere.
Could we do it as a pilot program to see how it?
I would say that you could. I'm not going to speak for Mandy, but I will for a second. I think the investment side on the pedal pub would be a concern at least. I don't know how much pedal pub costs, but the investment for a trial could be a limiting factor.
We did work on the draft of the franchise agreement to request a term to that. So we proposed a 3-year term to start.
Okay, council? Thoughts, concerns, questions?
So.
Like the idea?
I agree, all of the positive things that were said, but when I first saw this, I kind of was like, because we've heard so much about elevating the brand of Myrtle Beach, and this just doesn't do that for me. And I've seen these in operation in a lot of other cities, Boston when I was there and other places. And I remember seeing it there and thinking, whew, I'm glad we don't have those in Myrtle Beach. And so I would need a lot of space to grow into this idea, for sure. Not something that I'm excited about to start with. And, you know, all the people that you have on board are, you know, great people I have a great deal of respect for, but just hard for me to get around my arms to this proposal. Just being honest.
That's what we're here for.
But you are talking about, did I hear you say, not only, you're talking about taking tours to other businesses to see what it's, did I hear you say, desserts and?
Yes, yeah,
Stuff like
because
that.
we're not allowing alcohol on the
Right.
tour, we do want to craft different experiences that would cater to those people who aren't interested in drinking anyway. So yes, creating ways to get people from downtown, the boardwalk, to arts and innovation, to see some places that they might not normally go to, and showcase and partner with some of the experiences we already have, like the First Friday Art Walk or Winter Wonderland. And I hear those concerns of the first impression, but we are a premier operator. We do have Myrtle Beach interests at heart, and I think you can have confidence that we would operate this as well as a premier attraction with us as well as the Pedal Pub franchise behind it, that we want to be in this together.
I guess my mind kind of went to almost the same thing what Ms. Connor was thinking. I think I saw some of these in Nashville, I believe it was. And I thought they drink on them, but now you're telling me that they don't.
You can in other markets.
Okay.
South Carolina law wouldn't allow it.
Right.
So, but we still see the potential of creating experiences in Myrtle Beach that does not involve drinking on the Pedal Pub.
I like the idea of the tours.
You on a history tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, our pilots are ambassadors of the city that would share, you know, things to do, when to come back, history of the city, and, you know, new things that are coming to arts and innovation as well.
Would there be any music on them or
Yes,
anything?
yeah.
Well, but y'all control the music?
Yes, the pilot is in control of the playlist.
Okay.
It would be crafted to the type of people rating.
Right.
And then it's really a unique way to experience Myrtle Beach. There's nothing like it because you're in community together with strangers, exploring the city, but also still being outside. You still have the fresh air and environment where you don't get that if you're in some other type of touring vehicle.
With your other experiences and everything, would it still stay in the same
Yes.
designated
Yes,
area?
Yeah, the highlighted area of Ocean Boulevard, the boardwalk, and arts and innovation downtown.
Could we go back to the picture of it, please? Is this a design that you've already locked in on?
Yes, this is the standard Pedal Pub franchise bike. It has a barrel on the front and then 6 seats on the side and a bench in the back. And those are for non-pedalers to sit on the bench. And the pilot is in the middle. There's a walkway in the middle of the benches.
I mean, my first thought looking at this is, it does look like every other pedal pub across the country. And if this is doing tours, more than just being a pub, it would be nice if this had a more, I'm going to use the word elevated, a more elevated look to it that fits in with Myrtle Beach, with the coast. And so that it doesn't just look like every other one that's already out there.
I don't know how much flexibility I'd have with the franchise to alter the design, but I think we could certainly ask.
How many, in the area that you're talking about now, how many of our restaurants are located there? Because I'm interested, I get the idea of the pub crawl, but we have so many nice restaurants in the area that people don't necessarily get a chance to enjoy unless there was a designated tour, so to speak, that would also be unique and fun. So my question is, would there be enough restaurants there to put together that type of tour versus a drinking tour?
As we've partnered already with Riptides, the Beach House, Bums, Swig and Swine, and Grand Strand Brewery. So we could craft, an appetizer here and there, and finish at a restaurant as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Josh, what do you need from us?
Direction?
Keep going.
I really don't have a problem with it, especially since it's going to be in a contained area anyway. And we're dealing with, the general public and our tourists and everything else. I really don't have a problem with it, as long as we stay contained in a smaller area.
No drag racing.
Top speed is 9 miles per hour.
Michael?
I don't have a big problem with it. I'm just worried that, if we say try it for 3 years, I'm just worried, that we're, the congestion side of it. And I'm thinking about the mopeds and all that other stuff too. So that's, and their golf carts, and now we got something else. So becomes a problem. Something's gotta go.
I think if it's a
Straight
franchise
up front.
agreement with the city, then if it is a problem, we should have a way out in the franchise agreement.
Just like any other franchise agreement,
Yeah.
there's,
Just like any other franchise agreement, we have, the council has the ability to revoke, suspend.
That's easier said than done.
I understand. I'm not saying it was easy, but you do have the ability.
I yield. Personally, I think if we do this, sometime back, we denied the opportunity for a pedal cab. Or we didn't move forward with it, whichever would we. And I think if we do this, then what we do is just open the door for other things like this. And I just think if this was in one area that's been described, but especially along Ocean Boulevard, and so I don't know how much peddling is gonna get done anyway, and I don't know, it just doesn't seem like it works for me, but there again, I'm just one vote.
I don't have a problem with it.
I have some concerns that I've expressed. I would like us to look at addressing all of our concerns. I like looking for ways to add other experiences for our residents and visitors. Respectfully, I don't compare this to a pedal cab because this is more of a tour versus, and I've seen those pedal cabs in other cities that are crazy in and out of traffic. I don't think that's going to be the case with this, but I would like for us to continue to explore it and see what the potential franchise agreement would look like and what controls we could put on it.
I will work on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, too. And give Sky a belly rub for me. Okay, it is 9:48, so we do not have time for executive session items now. We will do those at the end of our council meeting. So we will take a break unless anybody has anything you want to discuss before the meeting. Okay, our meeting will start at 10 a.m.
show you one more thing, if you got a second. All right, so go to my emails.
Mike, you're not talking about rickshaws in Bangkok now. What? We're not talking about rickshaws in Bangkok.
I understand.
I rode one of those pedal cabs in Charleston, and it was scary.
Now, why isn't it an update?
You're not on.
I'll get it.
Gotta go here for some reason.
Yeah, you had showed me the other day and I forgot. Okay. If I go
I
there.
think, yeah, let me see.
And also, do you get your emails on your phone too, right?
Yeah.
Why doesn't it show all of them? Mine only shows about 10 or so.
If I don't, ask the question.
You what?
If I don't, ask the question. Can I get signatures from both of y'all, since you're here? And you're both wearing tears?
All right, how about this now? I think this is gonna work. Just put your bookmarks bar up. So now anytime you open
Okay.
Chrome, it'll say mail
Yeah.
right there. And you should be able to click that.
Okay.
Your phone.
Yeah. I mean, see how, $9:15?
I'm not used to using
You
a
just,
fancy.
when I just looked, you weren't at the top.
But go up.
But
How do you go back? You know, that's what you see what I'm saying?
yeah.
Not a Max question?
Yeah.
I used to be able to get all of them.
Yeah,
but
so-
when they changed some stuff,
Well, the problem is, where are you going to get this mail?
huh? Always go
Here?
right there.
This? Okay, so you just need.
Hey, Trouble. How are you?
Yes, it's Max. Tell him to put, don't use that one.
Okay.
Tell him that you want to use Outlook or something instead of that one, because
Okay.
that one doesn't, that can populate the most stuff.
Okay. All right.
It's not working. Thank you. All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's city council meeting. We will call today's meeting to order. We're happy to have so many of you here with us. However, we do ask if you would please silence your cell phones at this time. And as we get ready to do our invocation, I've asked Mr. Louder to lead us in the invocation today. There are so many people who need our prayers and our help, not only from Helene, but we have a major, major storm headed towards Florida right now, and we just need to pray for all of those in its path and all those who are dealing with total devastation of their lives. So if you would please rise and join council in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please join me in prayer. Lord, as we come to you this morning, we are truly thankful for all the many blessings that we receive. And Lord, we're just thankful for your guidance, your love, and your mercy. And Lord, now as we have our meeting this morning, we just ask you to be in our midst, in our presence, and that everything we do is for the best of our city and for our residents and our business community. Now, Lord, so many folks in the western part of North Carolina, upstate South Carolina, even into Tennessee and West Virginia, and even some in Georgia, Lord, that have already seen such devastation, Lord, and we just pray, Lord, that you will bless these folks and just guide and direct folks to help them during this time when it's so difficult for so many people. And we pray for the families that have lost loved ones, and we pray for those folks who have just totally lost everything. Mm-hmm. And Lord, they need our prayer more today than ever before. Now, Lord, as we stand here and then we look at in Florida, Lord, already been devastated by one hurricane already. And now they face another major hurricane that will be here going through Florida in a couple of days. Lord, we just ask that you protect these folks, give them wisdom and understanding, and know what they need to do to get to safety. But also at the same time, during all of this, we ask for your protective shield around them to keep those folks safe. And Lord, there's a time coming when they're going to need major help. And they're going to continue to need our prayers more than ever before, Lord. And then, oh Lord, we just ask all of these things because we know that you are in control. And Lord, that you are our fountain. You are our rock, Lord. And we just stand on your rock today, Lord. And all these things, Lord, we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike. I just have to say how fortunate we are to live somewhere where we can have the freedom to openly pray out loud and say our Pledge of Allegiance together. That's a blessing.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so at this time, I will ask for a motion to approve today's agenda with one minor change. I'm going to ask that we move 2024-60, which is the third item. It's the first reading of ordinance 2024-60 on page 2. It's the third item on our regular agenda. I'm going to ask that we move that to the first item on our regular agenda because so many of you I know are here for that, and we want to be respectful of your time. So I will ask for a motion to approve today's amended agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. May I please have a motion to approve our meeting minutes from September 24th, 2024?
So move.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Chestnut, second from Ms. Hatley. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We will now have our public information update. Good morning.
Good morning.
Brooke looks worried. Do we need some IT assistance? This is not planned so that you have to sit in awkward silence.
All right, I'll just move forward. This will be short and sweet. Members of the Public Works Department volunteered to help with the hurricane cleanup efforts in Anderson, South Carolina. The team carried specialized vehicles and equipment to aid in clearing debris from roads. Members of the Myrtle Beach Fire Department are back home from their week-long deployment in the upstate, thanks to everyone from the First and Service team who helped out our neighbors.
Let's give them a hand, please.
The city of Myrtle Beach is collecting donations to send to Hurricane Helene victims in western North Carolina. You can bring all donations to either one of our recreation departments, and you may drop those off up until November 4th. You may also drop off donations to Chapin Memorial Library and the Mobile Library. Oh, it's not moving. Have you seen the black socks along Mr. Joe White Avenue? It's a sign the road is getting paved. The South Carolina Department of Transportation will start repaving Mr. Joe White Avenue between Highway 17 and Kings Highway in the next few weeks. The black socks keep debris and sediment from getting into storm drains before the work begins. Okay. The Market Common Parking Deck P2 on DeVille Street will close tomorrow for renovations and maintenance. Crews will remove a ramp, repair the deck's supporting structure, add new lighting, replace HVAC unit, and replace the generator and paint. Construction on P2 parking deck is expected to complete in spring of 2025. Art in the Park returns this weekend at Myrtle Beach's Valor Memorial Garden. The event is set for 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Saturday and Sunday, October 12th and 13th. It's hosted by the Waccamaw Arts and Craft Guild. The Myrtle Beach Mini Marathon and Coastal 5K return to the Grand Strand Saturday, October 12th. Both races will be held on the same day using the same race route from 8th Avenue North around to Myrtle Beach Boardwalk. The mini marathon begins at 7 a.m. The Myrtle Beach Coastal 5K begins at 7:30. Bicyclists will hit the streets for a good cause. Bike the Beach charity bike ride is set for 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sunday, October 13th. The ride begins on Ocean Boulevard between 8th and 9th Avenues North and extends into city streets and county streets. It ends at Grand Strand Brewing Company on 8th Avenue North. The money raised supports bicycle and pedestrian advocacy efforts throughout the Grand Strand. Hundreds of Myrtle Beach residents enjoyed food and games at this year's National Night Out. The Myrtle Beach Convention Center was decked out in the fall decorations and plenty of sweets last Tuesday. Residents of all ages had the chance to meet public safety teams and city council members. A big thank you to everyone who made this event a success. The next Nights at Nance concert is Thursday, October 10th. Wear your dancing shoes to get your groove on the dance floor to the sounds of Southern Kind. The free concert is from 6 to 8 p.m. Thursday at Nance Plaza. Get ready for 3 days of musical entertainment. The 8th annual Myrtle Beach Jazz Festival is set for Friday through Sunday, October 18th through the 20th at Charlie's Place. The free celebration takes place along Carver Street and celebrates the city's rich and music history and culture with live music and food. The music begins 4 p.m. on Friday and 2 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. And I can't believe we're getting ready to talk about this, but we are. Winter Wonderland at the beach returns to the ocean front, downtown, and Arts and Innovation District of Myrtle Beach in November. Prepare to be in the holiday spirit when the lights return Friday, November 29th through Saturday, January 4th. The tree lighting ceremony is scheduled for Saturday, November 30th at Plyler Park. More activities and events will be announced later. Thank you.
Thank you, Chastity.
Ms. Mayor, before we move, you know, we always talk about passing school buses. We always talk about passing by our first responder vehicles and everything. This morning, I almost witnessed a really tragic accident take place. Our public works guys were picking up, you know, trash this morning on the street that I live on. They were out, the driver was out, taking care of the pelicans like they normally do, and the driver was making his way around the front of the truck, and a school bus was in front of me. And the school bus decided to pass this trash truck. And if it hadn't have been for the reflexes of that driver, he would have been hit by that school bus. And I will say this, I'm a big supporter of schools and school bus drivers. I'm probably one of those in here that drove a school bus in high school. But the driver of that bus was going too fast to be going around a parked trash truck while they were in the process of doing their work. So please keep in mind, everyone, when these guys are out there doing a great service for our city, we need to watch out for them because they're trying to do their best to keep our trash picked up. I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Okay, do we have any non-agenda items from the public?
No, ma'am.
Okay, we have no consent agenda items today, so we're going to move on to our regular agenda. Our first item is the first reading of ordinance 2024-60.
First reading of ordinance 2024-60 to amend the Market Common Master Plan to replace plans for a hotel at the corner of Faro Parkway and Phyllis Boulevard with plans for 192 residential units, maximum 3,500 square feet of commercial space and related amenities.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? So I've been told to make this brief, so I'm going to do the best I can with that task. I'm going to give you a brief history of not the entire Market Common, but honing in on this particular property. In 2005, when the Market Common Master Plan was originally adopted, the property on the far left of the corner, which is affectionately referred to as Phase 1A or the XYZ property, was originally slated to have 181,000 square feet of retail space, as you can see on the screen. You can also see that there was a lot of residential, particularly to the right-hand side of the screen. A lot of that was high-density multifamily residential, as originally envisioned back in 2005, for a total build-out of 1,680 residential units. Fast forward to 2017, the market dictated that there was not really a market for 181,000 square feet of retail on that on the XYZ parcel. So the property owner came in and asked for an amendment to the Market Common Master Plan to change that to putting a hotel up on the front on the corner of Phyllis and Faro, and reserving the property behind that up closer to Howard Street for future development. They didn't really know at the time what they wanted to do there, so they kind of put a placeholder on that. As you can see, it was referred to as future development. You can also see that towards the right-hand side of the screen, some of that multifamily started converting to townhouses and single-family residential. So last year, 2023, the property owner, again realizing that there wasn't a viable market for a hotel on that property, came to Planning Commission and City Council with a proposal for Market Walk. It was 98 townhouses and 105 cottages with 440 parking spaces. Planning Commission recommended approval. City Council denied the request. So at your workshop this last August, the property owner brought to you another proposal, a revised proposal for Market Walk. It had 93 residential townhouses and 96 cottages with an addition of 5,000 square feet of commercial space. It was a drive-through coffee shop up at the corner of Phyllis and Faro with an out parcel next to it for a total of a maximum of 5,000 square feet. And then there was a list of amenities throughout the project. They have revised the plan. They listened to some of the input that you gave them. They have been to the Planning Commission and listened to the input that they got, not just from the Planning Commission, but from several neighborhood meetings that they have had with some of the HOAs in the neighborhood, and have revised the plan yet again. So now they are looking at 90 residential townhouses, 102 residential cottages. They've reduced the commercial to 3,500 square feet. What they've done to do that is eliminate the out parcel. Now they're just looking at the drive-through coffee shop. 439 parking spaces and all of the amenities that go with it. So if you compare what is proposed today for the entire Market Common Master Plan area compared to what it was in 2005 from a residential count point of view, including what is proposed to you today, we're down to a total of 1,103 residential units throughout the entire Market Common, from the 1,600 and change that we originally envisioned back in 2005. So zooming in on the XYZ property in the Market Walk project, you can see the layout in front of you. That's a total of 192 cottages and townhouses and 424 residential parking spaces. And the commercial component of it involves the coffee shop, which they have now moved to the corner of Howard and Phyllis from the corner of Faro and Phyllis. And the reason they did that is because they heard a lot of concerns about how the coffee shop was going to be accessed. And they figured that the corner of Howard with access off of Howard instead of access off of Phyllis or Faro would have better circulation without bringing people through the neighborhood to get to the coffee shop. And so the coffee shop itself has an additional 15 parking spaces, and they have designed stacking for the drive-through for 14 cars. So last year and this year, they have done parking studies and traffic impact analyses that they have updated with every revision. They have concluded that the traffic impact, not just in the immediate intersections, but in intersections with a wider spread throughout Market Common, will not have an impact on the level of service of any of the intersections that would potentially be impacted by traffic generated from or generated to the site, meaning that and there's a traffic engineer here who can explain this better than I can, but meaning that the amount of time you're sitting at the traffic light is not going to be increased by more than a second or two from what the amount of time you're currently sitting at the traffic light, not just at Phyllis and Faro, but up at the Walmart and down Coventry and all the other lights in the area. They've also conducted a turning radius study throughout Market Walk to make sure that our fire trucks can make all the turns and access all of the houses. So both of those studies have been reviewed by staff, by our fire marshal, and by our engineering staff. Engineering staff guided the traffic analysis, impact analysis. They dictated where we want you to study, and they have reviewed the results and concur with the results of the study. They did 2 additional analyses, one with the Planning Commission asked them to consider unusual traffic that we have here in the area due to events that happen at Grand Park, particularly on baseball nights, and factor that into their traffic impact analysis. They've done that and concluded that it does not have a significant impact on the level of service compared to studying without it, so to speak. They also did an analysis of the parking that they are providing on site and the parking that would be generated by demand on the site, and concluded that the demand that for parking in Market Walk is actually lower than the amount of parking that they are providing, and that the amount of parking that we would be requiring otherwise in our code. So staff did a parking comparison of what is proposed and what would be required under the general code. You can see that for the residential portion, they are proposing 424 spaces. Under general zoning code, we would only be requiring 394 spaces. The restaurant, they are providing 15 spaces for the restaurant. We would be requiring 28. And the drive-through stacking lane, we would be requiring a minimum of 8 stacking spaces, and they are providing 14. Planning Commission was also very concerned about the possibility of short-term rentals on this location. The applicant indicated that it was never their intention to have short-term rentals, and now they have added language to the Market Common Master Plan proposal to ensure that short-term rentals will not happen. The applicant has agreed to install a 5-foot sidewalk along Howard Avenue and an 8-foot sidewalk along Phyllis, which will tie into the multipurpose path on Faro Parkway. And we talked a little bit about Thunderbolt Park. Thunderbolt Park is adjacent to the Market Walk property. You can see down there on the right. The path at Thunderbolt Park is almost all the way installed. We have kind of glommed that together with various funding sources. And you can see the red line on the screen is the path. The picture that I took is from the Blue Star. Walking down the path and to the end of the path where the path ends. Planning Commission requested, and the applicant has agreed to provide easements necessary for the city to install the remainder of that path to Faro Parkway, and has agreed to, let me make sure I word this correctly, invest an amount of money that is mutually agreeable to the applicant and the city management in an amount that would be put towards the completion of that path. So, that is staff's presentation. I'm happy to answer any of the what questions that I can. If you've got any why questions, the applicant team is here to answer any of those.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Let's get a motion on the table, then we'll open it up for discussion and questions, please.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Let me find my agenda. Hold on. Motion from Mr. Chestnut. Second from Mr. Smith. Okay, we'll now open it up to council for questions and concerns.
Kelly, what was the discussion of short-term rentals?
Planning Commission did not want short-term rentals. And like I said, the applicant indicated that they didn't have any intention. I think there was some concern from some of the neighbors that there might be short-term rentals. And Planning Commission really, I hate to speak for Planning Commission, but they have a lot of general discussion about mixing short-term with long-term, and many of them are of the opinion that that doesn't really work very well. So they wanted to make sure that this was going to be one or the other, and they preferred long-term, which was the intention of the applicant all along. So they just clarified that.
So do we define long-term in other places as 6 months? or longer?
It's anything more than 90 days.
Okay, thank you.
But the applicant had said
It's going more than that.
6 months.
They're going to do short-term or long-term leases with an initial period of 6 months.
Minimum initial period.
Kelly, I don't recall, and it probably has already happened, but when, we had the project 15 months ago, it was here, we know it was voted down. Now we have the project I'm calling Market Walk 2.0. When did this go through the Community Appearance Board? Has this project gone through the Community Appearance Board?
I think they have had conceptual review at the Community Appearance Board, but they have not had final review because it doesn't meet zoning yet until and if you all decide to amend the Market Common Master Plan.
Okay. Another question that I have talked about, the applicant has agreed to mutually negotiate to come up with funding to complete the uncompleted part of the pathway. I have a problem with that because we're going to be voting on something and we don't know what the money is going to be. So we're being asked to approve something where we don't know what the money is going to be, what they're going to offer, what we think is reasonable. And I just have a concern. I mean, you wouldn't do that in any other contract that I'm aware of. That certainly concerns me. The other thing that I want to bring up is that, and I'm reading this from our notes that we get, is that from the beginning, the Market Common Master Plan was designed to create a walkable community requiring pedestrian-oriented design. The plan thoughtfully and intentionally does not allow drive-through restaurants. Isn't the coffee shop a drive-through restaurant?
Yes, sir.
End of my questions for right now. Thank you, Kelly.
Kelly, would you please restate what you said about the negotiations of the funding for the path? Because I believe you said that the developer would work with the city manager to come to a mutual agreement on that.
That is correct.
But we haven't come to a mutual agreement.
No, but I do believe we have to trust our city manager to negotiate contracts on our behalf, because that's not our job to negotiate contracts. And I don't believe that our city manager would do anything that would not be in our best interest.
Mayor Bethune, I understand, and I do trust our city manager. I'm just more comfortable knowing what we're talking about in terms of dollars. And here comes a clarification.
So we've been working with the developer for some time, even in the prior iteration, about the path itself and the funding of the path itself. Our primary concern initially was getting the easements that we needed. They have granted us or given us the authority or stated that they would give us the easements that we need. So that was the primary hurdle for us. When we considered this first time around, we were actually in the middle of design of it, of the remaining portion of the walk or the multimodal path. We ceased the planning of that when it failed here a year or so ago. So we don't have final budget numbers on what the path is going to cost. So it's hard for us to make an ask. We have had recent conversations with the developer. Again, they're going to grant us the easements that we need, which is the primary concern for us. And I feel like we can get to a mutually agreeable number. Either the most recent turn is maybe not a financial contribution, but maybe an in-kind contribution where they're actually doing some of the site work for us, which will probably have a greater value than the financial contribution itself. So that's sort of the conversations that we've had to date, and I'm positive that we can find something. Again, the biggest thing for us was to make sure we had the easements to get the path through that area, which we do have.
Okay, and Brian, I'm going to ask if you'll stay up here with Kelly for just a few minutes. Yesterday, I went through most of the emails that we have received from Market Common residents and made a list of, a lot of the concerns were very similar. I made a list of most of those concerns. And I think we owe it to all the residents of Market Common, especially those of you who are here today, to go through this list and try to address some of these. One was about the density in this plan. So I want you to touch on the density of the original plan versus today's plan, because I believe this is much less density than what was originally proposed.
What was originally proposed for all of Market Common was 1,680 residential units.
Okay.
And with what's before you today, that number has been reduced to 1,103. So all of the infrastructure that was put in when Market Common was originally built, the roads, the water, the sewer, everything was based on that higher 1,600 and change. So what we're putting in now, should you all decide to do so, is a reduction of what was originally planned. And you can see, if you look at the screen now, a lot of the brown on the right-hand side, that's a lot of sweetgrass that are single-family houses. If you look back at the beginning, those were condos and townhouses and apartments. So that's where the reduction in the density has come.
Okay.
And you're talking about the Market Common district, not the general Market Common area, is that correct?
Correct. If by general Market Common area, you mean the entire airbase?
Yes.
Then that is correct.
Traffic and density was one of the questions you just answered. Infrastructure was a major concern. You've addressed that. One email was concerned about Market Common not having, or maintaining this as green space. And from what I see, Market Common has more green space than any other area of the city. Are you satisfied, and was the Planning Commission satisfied with the green space in this particular development?
The answer to your question is yes.
Okay. Several residents were concerned about attracting more high-end retail to the vacant storefronts. I want people to understand City Council has nothing to do with the retail and Market Common. We do not manage the retail, but we can tell you that the only way to attract more retail is with more rooftops. Retailers look for how many rooftops are in an area before they decide where they want to locate. Several people asked about the hotel. There are reasons why a hotel chose not to go there. I don't know if you have those reasons or not to share with people, but we did not have any hotel developers, to my knowledge, that were interested in this site. Is that correct?
None that we're aware. In 2017, the property owner at the time thought that it was a good idea, but clearly a lot of time has passed between then and now, and a hotel has not come to fruition.
Okay. And then lastly, several people were concerned about, did the traffic study look at the impact of traffic on Coventry, Yorkshire, and Berkshire?
They looked, I'll defer to the applicant on the specifics. My understanding is it looked at every roadway and every intersection with a traffic light between here and this location in the bypass and this location in Kings Highway.
Okay. And Planning Commission voted unanimously on this. Were there any concerns that they brought up?
They voted unanimously with 3 conditions, all of which the applicant had agreed to and was part of your presentation today. One of those was that the restaurant be limited just to a coffee shop. So the language has been changed to accommodate that. That the sidewalk on Phyllis be 8 feet wide as opposed to the 5 feet that was originally proposed, and the applicant has agreed to that. And they wanted the language about the contribution for the completion of the path at Thunderbolt Park.
All right, thank you.
and it was unanimous.
I'm interested in what happened to the dog park.
The dog park fell out of the plan when they moved the restaurant to the corner of Phyllis and Howard. I'll have to defer to the applicant as to why.
And I think in 2005, when this original plan was made, I don't think a drive-through coffee shop existed. That wasn't something that we did. So I can see a lot of things have changed since 2005 for sure, but definitely drive-through coffee shops is one of them.
Kelly, this parcel is zone C6, and then it's overlaid with not a development agreement, a master plan.
Master plan.
Right? So under C6, what other things could be built here?
There isn't a whole lot of limit to what can go in the C6. It's very similar to our MUM district. Retail, restaurants, residential.
So,
To be honest, the original big box retail, 181,000 feet, is kind of out of character with the C6. C6 is more small scale type things.
could you build a 5-story apartment complex?
Yes,
Okay, so had the hotel worked out, there would still be 12 acres of future development.
correct.
All that at the right side, well, not at the right anymore, where it says future development. So they could theoretically have come and asked to build a 5-story apartment complex there,
Correct.
which would fit more people than what they're currently asking for,
Depending on the design.
5 stories.
Put more traffic.
Kelly, if you'll leave that slide up, what part of this whole area still belongs to the county? Can you kind of help us focus on that?
The part that is carved out to the left,
Okay.
I believe is still owned by the county. And then there's quite a bit in the ITAP that is still owned in the
Owned
county.
by the
Still
county.
in the county.
That's an area that is still under EPA scrutiny, is it not? Don't they have to test there 4 times a year?
I don't know the details of it. Colonel Stiers in the audience is the expert on the hows and whys and wheres of that.
Okay. I'd like to hear about that.
Buddy, could you please come up? You thought you were going to get off easy today, huh?
You thought I was asleep. The 6 acres.
But you knew I would wake you up.
The 6 acres he's talking about, the redevelopment authority, shortly after the Market Common had the ribbon cutting, we gave that to the county because of its being a button to the ITAP. And there are Air Force monitoring wells out there, and Air Force has a contractor that comes in and measures the contamination. The way they're cleaning it is via natural, and that's why it's going to be 25 or 30 years. It has some uses, but not many, and so it does belong to the county, and it's attached to the ITAP.
So Colonel, let me make sure that I do understand. It's going to be another 25 or 30 years before EPA and the Air Force feel that through some natural means that this will be completely mitigated? Do I understand that correctly?
That was our understanding from the Air Force. That was their best estimate. This is 10 years ago. So
Okay.
hopefully the mitigation is working and it is cleaner, but the Air Force is responsible and they have a contractor that visits and monitors the wells.
Okay. Thank you.
While Buddy's here, does
Buddy.
anyone on council have other questions for him?
Buddy,
Yes.
so knowing that you were part of this in 2005, this is the last parcel
Yes,
to
it is.
complete the development of the Market Common as it was established in 2005.
Yes, it is.
But
I have a
is the Myrtle
follow-on
Beach,
question about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
does the Myrtle Beach Air Force Base Redevelopment Authority support this plan?
Yes, and I was going to say something about that later, but since you asked me, the Redevelopment Authority was established by state law in 1994 and given the task of overseeing the redevelopment and reuse of the base, obviously in coordination with the city. I was hired in 1995. One of the first things the Redevelopment Authority and myself realized, we did not have a plan. We didn't know what exactly we were going to do. We discovered that the city had a vision of an urban village. And so as we looked into it and we came up with a master plan for an urban village, obviously we had a choice. We could have chosen our own development plan, but since the city already had their own, it made good sense for us to adopt your plan and make it part of ours. And that way, I felt like we could count on you to cooperate if we're developing your plan. Now, that didn't work 100% of the time, but mostly it did. And so then we came up with the master plan. And I tell you that the city, and when I say city, I mean you, Public Works, police, fire, everybody has cooperated and worked with us closely to ensure that we continue to accomplish that master plan. And the authority members will tell you that they believe the thing that made it work so well is because we stuck to that plan, the city stuck with us in that plan, and that's why we're to the point where there is only this remaining piece of property to be developed.
But you say you stuck to the plan, but the plan has changed many times.
Well, obviously, life changes, and culture changes, the economy changes, and as Kelly said about a space saver, when we did that the very first time with Dan McCaffrey and McCaffrey Interests that built the Market Common, we didn't know what to put in that space. So there had been some discussion locally that a Macy's or something like that. And so we just put it in there as a space. Obviously, the level and quality of the stores we wanted in the Market Common, there wasn't any other kind around here that we would have. And then, of course, 2008 came and the economy changed and we dropped that. The hotel, again, was more an opportunity to try to look as far out as we could as to what would support the community and what would be economically feasible for the developer. And that changed too because of the economy. And most people, I think, if they had a choice of walking on the beach and being next to the ocean as opposed to sitting in the Market Common, I think many, maybe more, would choose the beach as opposed to that.
Did you try to put a Trader Joe's there?
I've never been to a Trader Joe's, so
You're
I
missing
don't
out.
know. Ask Jackie,
rumors,
she's
rumors,
probably been to
rumors.
one.
Does anyone have anything else for Buddy while he's here? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Kelly, if I could, I have one follow-up question. Now that the Colonel has explained this to us, and again, the notes that we get is that the Market Walk is going to be developed as a single parcel. EPA regulations prohibit the parcel from being subdivided. My question is, if this was not a rental community, long-term rental community, and this was a single-family home, single-family townhome for sale project, what would be the impact in terms of what the EPA would have to disclose to those buying the property?
I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this. We would
I
not.
may not have
we-
phrased it
we
correctly.
We cannot subdivide single-family lots that don't, in order to sell a single-family house, you have to have a single-family lot. The EPA is preventing us from creating single-family lots. So
Why is that?
I don't know Colonel Stiers might know the answer to that, I don't know.
Here he comes.
Sorry, Colonel.
That's okay, I don't mind responding to you.
Getting your steps in.
I truly don't know the answer to it, but the difficulty comes in the fact that if you have one set of owners to deal with, home fed in this case, for all of the rentals, versus having to respond to 198 homeowners, if something were to happen, if the contamination were to surface or not being mitigated, it would be a lot simpler for the service and for EPA to deal with one owner, home fed, as opposed to 198. That is my best assumption of why that is.
Okay. Following on that, and God forbid, something happens with that area that is still contaminated. And, you know, as you pointed out, now the person responsible or the entity would be home fed. So would it be, and maybe the applicant needs to answer this, would it be home fed's responsibility then to inform each and every rental unit that there was an issue?
I would
In other
assume-
words, how do you, if there is a problem, how do you get the information out to those who are renting your property?
I think that needs to be answered by home fed.
Okay. And I'd appreciate that.
Buddy, before you leave,
I'm sorry, Colonel.
I don't want to put unjustified fear in anyone's mind about potential contamination of this property. This property has been here how long?
Since 1954?
Have we ever had anything happen?
No, but the important part is by federal law, regardless of when it happens, the Air Force is still responsible. Should they have to go back and do another analysis and determine what kind of contaminant is there and how to respond to it, the Air Force by law would have to do that. But the process that we had to go to with DHEC, EPA, and the Air Force to get to this point, they had to find that that property was suitable for transfer because it had a system in place that was mitigating the contamination.
So it has been and will continue to be properly monitored.
Yes, absolutely. I don't recall exactly how many monitoring wells are out there. This property is close to where the aviation fuel tanks were, but that has been in place, and they will continue to do that until it's clean.
So I hear what the mayor says, but they're going to do it until it's determined that it's clean, which means it is not clean at this point in time.
I assume you're right. There is contaminant there, but it is being mitigated naturally, which is a process that is acceptable, and it's the way it's done. There are other ways to clean it, but it's more costly, and the Air Force had many bases that they were trying to clean, and so they had to choose the process that best economically that they could live with. But it is being mitigated, and I'm sure that with some effort, if it were necessary, could find out from the Air Force how the monitoring is coming.
But that is not on the applicant's property, that is on the county's property.
That's on the county property, right, the 6 acres that we gave to the county, because at the time, it was completely encased in the remaining 16 acres.
But if the Air Force or DHEC or whoever thought that more property were contaminated, they would have kept a larger piece.
Yes, absolutely. Because they did monitoring wells everywhere to find out where the contaminant was, what kind it is, and therefore then determine how to clean it. And that's how we got to where we are now.
So currently, no wells on the property being developed. That's clean.
Is that right?
It's only the adjacent property.
No wells on this 16 acres? I'm not sure about that.
Walter Warren with Thompson Hutton. There are wells around the perimeter of the site. That's to monitor the background growth or the background migration of the contaminant. But it has continually moved toward the Intracoastal Waterway. As Buddy said, the EPA, DHEC, and the Air Force coordinated, and before it was found suitable to transfer to the current property owner, EPA and all had to release the property as being suitable.
And you may as well stay up here.
I'm glad he reminded me about suitability to transfer, that we had 14 contaminated sites in the Market Common District originally. Many of them were beside a roadway where you've had runoff from the roads. Each one had to be found suitable for transfer before we could get the title to it. We went through that process, and this is part of it. So all of the rest of them were cleaned except this final piece.
Okay. Thank you, Buddy. Okay, does council have any questions for the developer?
I just had that one question. In the event, and it sounds like it would be very, very remote, but in the event that something did happen, would the developer, HomeFed, is it their responsibility to inform the people who are under rental contracts with them?
I'm not certain what the agreement says. The agreement earlier spoken to, which said it would not be subdivided, outlines all of those particular items as to protocol. It does specifically say that the Air Force acknowledges full responsibility for the contaminant, which was a fuel spill back in the 1970s.
Walter, then who would be responsible for informing the residents, the people that are renting these 192 rooftops? That's my question.
Yeah, I do not have that agreement in front of me, but I would.
Dan has it.
Mr. McClure, so yes, sir. If, as part of the annual or biannual monitoring of this Air Force facility or the county facility that the Air Force has responsibility for in this, if the owner were notified that there was a change in circumstance, then absolutely, HomeFed would then take responsibility for notifying each one of its tenants of the circumstance and what would be happening about that. But the ultimate responsibility for the fix, the clean, is still clearly with the United States Air Force. But yes, sir.
I understand. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions, comments from council? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Everyone will have 3 minutes. And we ask that when you come forward, if you would please state your name and your address for the record, please. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Mark Clark. I live at 1855 Parish Way. I am the president of the Park Place Homeowners Association, and I would like to answer and clarify a few of the questions that came in on yours. I know Mr. Tucker was at the public hearing, and I'm sure he shared what he heard that night. But I need to talk about how this is going to impact, or how we can look at the ability they're offering to do walkways. We need to look at how this is impacting the other neighborhoods. You addressed Coventry Boulevard, Yorkshire Boulevard. Berkshire is a street in Park Place. If you don't know, we are directly across from the entrance to the ballpark. We right now, when HTC is coming to school in the morning, Myers fills up from that stop sign at Pampas, Park Place, end of Parish Way, has 2 car lengths basically back from the stop sign. Sometimes the entire length of Yorkshire Parkway is backed up. It's simply almost impossible. You've added now 89 units, I believe, to High Market 2, which is in full construction now. We're not sure we're going to be able to get out of our neighborhood if the issues that you're discussing with potential things on Farrell Parkway, people start looking to seek alternatives to not worry about the traffic there. We're going to get all of it. So we would like, in your consideration, I'm not here to badmouth or talk against the development or do anything else. That's not my role or responsibility. But the public safety of my neighborhood, my association, and those of Emmons Preserve, the Highlands, all those are quite significant. With 34 seconds left, the only other thing I ask is how the application of the center point options will be. Will they be required to sign on to a MID like we all had to? The section of Farrell Parkway that they're going to receive all the benefits for, we're paying for a vast part of that annually for the lights, everything else. Our association pays $10,000 a year to Centerpoint to maintain Farrell Parkway.
Okay, and Brian, are you prepared to answer that question?
We're actually working on looking at some of the center point lighting issues now.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your
Right.
time. and
Thank you,
consideration
Mr.
when
Clark.
Look at the change. Thank you.
Appreciate you for being here. Okay. Anyone else? Ed?
Ed Carey, 950 Rosencrantz. I live right in the Market Common. I'm probably the closest residential neighborhood to this property. And I've been on that HOA, the R4 HOA, since almost the inception. The strengths, single owner management to control the rental units. I like that. Provides additional 189 dwellings. Now it's, 190 now, the change, to support the Market Common. It's well less than the 1,600 plus units. And it'll support the town center. The problem with this is the parking calculations are not based on reality. I've lived through 15 years of R4 and the way things are. We've got 54 townhouses, but really 94 units with the Live Works. The calculations in our neighborhood, just on the basis of our neighborhood without the street parking, their ratios are better. But if you look at the reality of this, people don't park two cars in a two-car garage. I don't believe any of these garages they're building have driveways. It's going to be a pretty dense parking issue, and that's my biggest concern of this thing. The traffic studies, I know in the past have allowed for this. I know people differ with that, but you really look at the parking issue here, and I think that's more of a problem. It's going to be onto the management of this property. As far as those other issues, the environmental, I can talk to you about that later, my past history of that, but parking. Think about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's William McFarlane. I live at 1199 Prescott Circle, part of the Market Common Development. My main concern with this is also the parking. If any of that's in garages, these folks are not going to use their garage for parking. They're going to use it for storage. Talking about cottages, in my mind, that means a very small home of some type with very limited storage areas. And when we talk about rentals, all of these units are rentals. And we know that rental property gets more abuse than homeowners. They're not maintained as well. The lawns, the landscaping are not maintained as well. If they have children, where are the children going to play? I like the idea of developing the land. I support that, but the rental area, I think, is just the wrong thing for this piece of land. I think it's not going to be maintained properly, and it's not going to be an addition. This is part of probably one of the last, if not the last, parcel of land to be developed in Market Common, and we're going to put small rental homes on it. I think that's a drastic mistake. I think it's going to degrade the value of every other piece of property in Market Common if you do that. So I ask you to really consider that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I think the home fed is going to take care of the exterior and the land and all of this. It's not going to be individual renters taking care of these yards. So it will be taken care of at the home fed level.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. My name is Lynn Vale. I live at 1793 Culbertson Avenue, and that's in the Emmons Preserve neighborhood. I don't know quite where to start, but when I hear that car impact, there will not be any, I don't buy it. My house backs up to Coventry, and it has progressed throughout the years. For this development to come in with a big number of vehicles, maybe 2, maybe more, just say 400 more cars. That's 400 more cars on our communities, on Coventry, which has a number of issues, just not driving, but speeding. Berkshire, Yorkshire, they come from the college, they cut through. People are going to know where to cut through to go to the grocery store. You go on Farrow Parkway, you try to go to Walmart, it could back up to the bank. So you're sitting there, so it's a cut through, so people cut through. You go now to Publix, which is brand new at the bypass in Coventry. Saybrook hasn't even been built out yet. We have no idea what that impact is going to be. The trees are gone, hurricanes are coming, there's nothing to stop. I think we have to look at this and put a moratorium on building. This is not the right build for this area. They say a coffee shop, those people that are going to go to this coffee shop, could be a Starbucks, but we got a Starbucks right up at Market Common in Nobles. People are going to park at 810. When a Market Common has events, that parcel is overflow for parking, for events, for Market Common community. So when this build goes into effect, no matter what it is, where are we going to park? We're not going to go to our events that we want to go to, that we enjoy going to. So I just want you to really think about what is happening here. This isn't the right build for this property or this community. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Morning, my name is Jim Condrey. I'm a resident of the Highlands, 1194 Parish Way. Last time I was here, I primarily spoke of change that's taking place, not only in this project proposal, but within the city. For those of you who don't know me, I have been an advocate for the city of Myrtle Beach for 13 years. I have never criticized, and in fact, on numerous occasions have always praised the job that members of this council have done. In fact, there are only 3 people on the dais that were here when I moved into Market Common from the county in January of 1914, 13, excuse me. 86 years does have a way of slowing you down. General Stires, for those of you who do not know Buddy Stires, he's devoted his entire last 30 years or so to develop or help develop Market Common. I gave him a promotion to general because he deserves it, even in retirement. Thank you, sir. Councilwoman Haley, you knocked on my door.
Yes, sir.
At the time you knocked on my door, you didn't know that I was an advocate for the city of Myrtle Beach and the progress that everybody in this room has made. You didn't know that I was really seriously involved in what I see going on and what I have seen going on in the last few years. I applaud the leadership. Big Mike, not so big Mike.
Oh, trust me, he's big.
The only people who were here in 2013. I'm so happy because I drove through the proposed new downtown district this morning. I have said before, I drive up into the city many times, and I have told our city managers recently as last week at Publix that I think the city council as it currently exists, and as well as those members who have gone before you, do a wonderful job. The change I see, however, is that never before in the last 13, 14 years has the assistant city manager advocated for a proposal. That's fine. This is the wrong proposal, and it's only because of traffic.
Can we give him a
I
minute?
urge you to consider it.
If there's a consensus from council, yes. One more minute, please.
I can't imagine a drive-through coffee shop on the corner of Howard and the other street. And I can't imagine another 200 or 300 cars, much less more than that, exiting and entering this project off of Faro onto their Phyllis and off of Howard into their project and out of Howard across from the pool, even in the wintertime. As our previous speaker said, we have reached the point now of saturation. I strongly urge the council, those of you who voted against this project recently. Market Common is the largest voting district in this area. Market Common does have some very strong opinions, and they vote that way. I will not change my votes in the past, no matter what you do. I'm one of the strongest advocates of our mayor this city has. There are people in the county who don't know that they don't live in the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. Anyone else? Okay. Before we vote on this, I do want to again thank all of you for being here. We thank you for your emails. We have read the emails. And I want you to understand that our decisions are not easy. We have to factor in many, many things when we make a decision. And if our jobs were that easy, we would make people happy every single day. And I can assure you that will never happen. Some of the decisions we make will not make people happy. But we do our best for the greater good of this community, and we do our best to inform ourselves and get the data, use the data to help us make good, sound decisions. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your concerns with us. We have a motion and a second for first reading of ordinance 2024-60. We've had council comments, we've had public comments, now we will put it to a vote, and I will ask for a show of hands on this vote. All those in favor of the approval for the first reading of ordinance 2024-60, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, motion does carry. Thank you. All right, thank you all for being here. I'm going to ask for a 5-minute break, please, because I see some people are going to be leaving, and we're 2 hours in, and I'm sure some of council may need a break.
Weather
They're
watcher.
there.
150 still going at.
Okay. Could everyone please take
Down
your
to
seats so we
145.
can get back to our regular agenda? Thank you.
Last night, 105. Went to 180. Yeah, it was big. It's going right at Campground.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the first reading of ordinance 2024-59.
59,
57.
What?
57.
57.
Well, I've traded out 60 and 57.
Oh, okay. That's
Do you want to do
I
59?
kept 59 where it was and just traded out the other. But you do it, we can go to first reading of ordinance 2024-59. 57. So, yeah, that one.
we got to do both of them, so
57.
50.
Okay. First reading of ordinance 2024-57, a supplemental ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of not exceeding $81 million aggregate principal amount limited obligation bonds, hospitality fee pledge, in 2 series of the city of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, for the purposes of defraying the cost of renovations to the city's convention center, improvements to the downtown arts and innovation district, and refinancing certain indebtedness of the city, prescribing the form and details of such bonds, providing for the disposition of the proceeds thereof, and other matters relating thereto.
Yes, ma'am. We had an extensive workshop last week on this. There's been no changes, but in summary, take this in 3 parts. I know 81 is a large number, but half of it is a refunding of existing debt that will generate over $5 million, I believe, in cost savings. This is similar to refinancing your home and a mortgage. So that's 40 of the 81. Another part of this is 20 million for improvements to the convention center and the facade improvements with leaky glass. That was in the CIP as 10, but cost escalation has brought that up to 20. And the final piece is 16 and a half is for the downtown infrastructure, which also incorporates water, sewer, stormwater, road improvements, streetscape improvements for the A&I district, but also for the surrounding neighborhoods. And we talked extensively last week with Chris Miller here about what that will entail. We have Bill Musser here from our bond counsel, and Marla is here as well, and happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you. Let's get a motion on the table, and then we will discuss. Is there a motion for the approval of the first reading of ordinance 2024-57?
Motion to approve?
Motion from Dr. Connor, second
Second.
from Mr. Smith. Any discussion from council? And keep in mind, we do have Bill Musser here to also answer questions that we may have.
The only question I have out in Fox is on the improvements to the convention center, is that gonna be the glass, I'm sure y'all got a list, the carpet and, well, I guess the big question is it anything to do with the hotel?
No.
Okay, that's, yeah.
It's really the
glass.
walkway.
Yeah, that whole
That's out front with all the
walkway,
glass.
it leaks like this, it's leaking really good.
You've been in there when it rains, right?
Yeah, I've been in there when it rains. But I thought the hotel had some problems with some glass too, and that's why I asked that.
They did, I believe we addressed those in years past, on the rooms.
And the infrastructure in the A&I district, that's some of the oldest infrastructure in the city
1938.
that is in need of upgrades, no matter what we're doing.
It needs an upgrade, and it's not in spots where it needs to be now. So it's new, and it's expanded capacity to meet future development, not just for the A&I, but for the whole community.
Could you, just for council's refreshment and as well as for information for the community, in workshop last week, we got a really detailed list of what all of those infrastructure projects are, and it was in more detail than what we've had in the past.
I'm looking for Chris Miller, my safety blanket.
Because it's not as simple as just A&I infrastructure.
It's not. I mean, I think, obviously, it's A&I heavy, but the primary base infrastructure improvements that we're talking about here are true water and sewer improvements along Oak and, Oak Street area, Witherswash. One of the bigger components and one of the more costly components is the additional stormwater capacity that we have on both sides of Highway 501, which has been a problematic area for some time. Undergrounding of electric utilities, repair and renovation of existing water and sewer utilities. The new pump station at 6th Avenue actually replaces one of the older pump stations in the city at 5th Avenue. Well, thank you. That's very handy. The other big one is the additional parking. So we've got added parking on 6th Avenue, 9th Avenue, all along Broadway, all along Oak. That continues to be one of the consistent comments that we get from business owners, future and present, is making sure we have enough parking for downtown. The city services renovations, the new parking lot there is factored into that, but it's also additional parking. Reconnecting 8th Avenue. So as of right now, we have to take that jog on 8th Avenue to stay on 8th Avenue. Same thing with Oak Street. So regularizing those intersections to make sure that they are safe. We all have been through that. Well, I won't say all of us. I've been through that intersection a number of times and had people honk their horns at me. So that's a tricky intersection. And then the streetscaping obviously is what we've talked about for some time, but the core infrastructure there is also, again, very important.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Brian or staff?
I have a couple of questions. One, I know we voted sometime back to approve funding for the infrastructure we're talking about, which I don't have a problem with that as far as the infrastructure being in need to be done. But my issue is that I don't like tagging that to the convention center. But that's just that comment for me. Number one, on the improvements or what's going to be taking place as far as replacing glass, whatever, the facade at the convention center. The estimate there is $20 million. Okay, first question, A on that, is if it's $15 million, where does that additional 5 go to? My question B to that is, can that money be put in a separate account of some type where it can be used in the future for any future needs for the convention center?
I believe the answer to both those questions is yes.
And then the second question is, if it's $25 million, do we go back and rebond again to, I'm just putting that as a hypothetical question.
Sure.
I'm not trying to be negative or positive either way. Those are just questions on my mind.
If it comes in higher than what we estimate, then we're going to have to, staff will figure it out and come back with a plan on how to address it or scale back the project accordingly to meet budget.
Okay, then the third question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, in all of this, at the bottom line, there's a savings of $380,000 a year. It's 5 point something over.
That's the refunding.
Period.
That's the refunding piece. The refunding piece is going to save 5.6, but with the added debt, I think it's actually going up a little bit. Is that right, Bill? Yes. So there's some savings and there's some with the additional 16 and a half. It's a difference there.
Bill, why don't you please come to the podium so we can all hear you? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, there will be an additional $40 million of debt and the debt service that goes along with that, but the savings on the refunding will offset $380,000 of the additional debt service per year under the current market projections. So.
Yeah, I understand there's an additional 40 million.
Right.
Got that part. What I'm asking is, when talking to Michelle about this sometime back about this, she explained to me that over a period of the 5 years that there was gonna be a savings of $385,000 a year.
Cash flow.
There will be a cash flow savings in every year, so long as these bonds are outstanding, the refunding portion of the bonds of 380. And if you net present value that back, you get $5 million of net present value savings. I think that's the analysis.
And the reason that both of these are joined together is because they're both hospitality tax
That's
funded.
correct, that's correct. It's part of your hospitality
Right.
tax financing program.
Yeah.
So the hospitality taxes will pay for this debt.
That's correct, and these are all permitted uses under the hospitality fee laws.
With the refunding, the savings of the money that's due to the current interest rate that we could borrow against, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What would happen if we took that savings and rather than extended it, shortened the term of the loan so that we would get rid of the debt sooner? How
Well-
soon could we get rid of the debt versus extending it an additional 3 to 5 years?
I can't answer that. You'd need Mr. Cheatwood or Michelle to do that. You could have conceivably take all the savings up front, but you haven't, this is part of a larger financing program, and I think the debt service has been measured based on what city staff thinks can be afforded going forward without taking away the value of the hospitality fee revenue stream for future financings. So it's a kind of allowing it to be amortized over a longer period, so if you do have to borrow against the hospitality fee stream again, you'll have debt capacity to do that.
Which extends it 3 years.
Any other questions for Bill? Okay, thank you. Appreciate you for driving up here again.
Hey, I love the beach.
Okay, any other discussion from council?
I do have a question. The last time we talked, it was talked about that in terms of the Arts and Innovation District portion of this, how it was going to benefit the surrounding neighborhoods. And I'm really not clear on that. I see where it benefits A&I. I don't see where it benefits the other neighborhoods. And maybe I'm just missing it.
I think allows the upgraded and modernization of the pipes. The pipes that are servicing our community now is 1938 and is inferior capacity, and this is going to modernize it and bring it up to current standards.
But it's within the A&I district? Are we going out into the Withers Swash neighborhood? That's what I'm trying to get my mind around.
Yeah, so the actual initial work that's going on now is happening in Withers Swash. So if you go down Oak Street now, you see that the new pump station and some of the new utility work being done along Oak Street that will benefit Withers Swash and fix some problematic areas that we've had historically there. But I mean, the system's interconnected, so yes, it will certainly help Withers Swash.
Will it also help future residential areas?
Absolutely. So yes, that's part of this too, is can't future-proof, but yes, I mean, to Fox's point earlier, this is some of the original infrastructure in the city. So the water and sewer there is already causing some problems. So we're replacing some of that, upgrading, and then building capacity. And then that's on the water sewer side. The stormwater side, the 2 ponds, 3 ponds, that helps that entire drainage basin. So I think many of us have had time, or have seen instances where 501 floods.
Yeah.
So I mean, this addresses that very directly. And obviously, that's a main corridor into the city.
Yep.
Well, I want to point out, because Mr. McClure specifically mentioned residential areas, also our businesses.
Right.
Okay. There being no other discussion from council, I'll open this up for public comment. Okay, and again, I will ask for a show of hands when we vote on this. We will be voting on the first reading of ordinance 2024-57. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is the first reading of ordinance 2024-59.
First reading of ordinance 2024-59, to authorize the city manager to execute extension of campground property lease and assignment of lease to related entity, and to amend purchase and sale agreement.
The ordinance before you amends the Lakewood Campground lease to extend the lease term another 5 years and to assign the lease rights to the actual operator.
Okay, thank you, Will. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-59?
Motion approved.
Motion made from Mr. Louder, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. First reading of ordinance 2024-61.
Mayor, I'm going to recuse myself from 2024-61 and 2024-62 because my wife works for the property owner.
Okay, thank you.
First reading of ordinance 2024-61, to annex 9.41 acres at the corner of 29th Avenue North and Robert Grissom Parkway, PIN number 424-0701-0008, 424-0203-0194, 424-0203-0195, and 424-0204-0131, and to rezone the property from Horry County RC Resort Commercial to Myrtle Beach HC1 Highway Commercial.
Very good.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's a very simple request. It's annexation of 4 parcels. This is annexation that would allow the city to fill a large portion of one of its donut holes in the central part of our community. Be glad to answer any questions or provide further detail.
Okay, let's get a motion on the table. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-61?
So moved.
I'll take Mr. Chestnut first, and a second from Mr. Louder. Any discussion from council?
Now the donut hole closed.
Ken, for the benefit of the public, please explain what a donut hole is, and also explain the benefit to the city by closing up a donut hole.
You see the colored map, and then you see the white areas with the purple star in the middle. That is what, the white area is what would be considered a donut hole. We're looking to fill a major portion of that donut hole by not taking in that whole rectangular parcel, but by taking in those lots right there. So everything that currently fronts on Grissom would be taken in, and a little bit less than half that fronts on 29th would be taken in.
Okay, but a donut hole is actually located in Horry County, even though it appears to be surrounded or is surrounded by city limits.
They will have Myrtle Beach address, they just don't have the Myrtle Beach services. Yes, ma'am.
But this property will be held to the standard of being maintained towards the city's standards.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it does benefit the public.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Not everybody knows what a donut hole is.
About like that.
Okay, any other discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. First reading of ordinance 2024-62.
First reading of ordinance 2024-62, to annex 3.76 acres off of 21st Avenue North, PIN 425-0303-0002, into Myrtle Beach city limits, and to rezone the property from Horry County AC Amusement Commercial to Myrtle Beach LM Light Manufacturing.
The property in question, as you see on the map here, is the old helicopter adventure site. Again, we are closing a donut hole in the city of Myrtle Beach. We're taking a bite out of the donut on this one. The star represents the little portion of the main parcel that we're looking at doing. There's the actual map showing the old helicopter adventure site. there's the actual property in question. Be glad to answer any questions that may come in. The abutting properties in the county are amusement and light industrial.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-62?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. First reading of ordinance 2024-63.
First reading of ordinance 2024-63 to amend the Code of Ordinances, the City of Myrtle Beach, Appendix A zoning, Section 1805, Booker T. Washington Neighborhood Overlay Zone, to add new Section 1805D, allowing changeable electronic variable message sign, CEVMS, for religious establishments.
Yes, ma'am. It's a very simple request. This will apply only to the Booker T. Washington Overlay District. The purpose of this ordinance is to allow only the churches within this community to have a CEVM. They would adhere to all the standards of our CEVMs that are spread across the city currently as we operate. There'll be no exceptions in regard to that. But it's a simple request just to allow them to have changeable copy as well as CEVM message boards. Those are the two existing churches within the district. These are a couple of examples of churches in the city that already have such signs that they are asking for. Those are the CMV standards that will have to be adhered to at all times, irregardless of the location of the sign.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve first reading of ordinance 2024-63?
Motion to approve.
Motion from Mr. McClure, second from Mr. Chestnut. Any discussion from council?
Ken, was there any discussion in allowing those signs in other areas? I remember when the signs
First came out in 2009.
Everybody was really scared of them.
And
They were going to ruin the city, and I haven't heard much talk about them
Well,
since.
and based off of that, that's why we proceeded with regulatory caution whenever we came forward with this. Basically, what you have is currently in the MUM district, no changeable copy is allowed whatsoever, whether it be the handheld switch-out letters or whether it be a CEVM. Being that the underlying zoning is a MUM, but it's in an overlay. So this kind of gives us like a little small test sample, so to speak. The churches currently already have changeable copy signs that were in place prior to the rezoning in 2014. So not only is this making those non-conforming signs conforming, it's also giving them the option to now have the actual CEVM and adhere to all the same regulations as everybody else across the city.
Well, have you gotten a lot of complaints about CEV
No.
as signs over the last 15
The
years?
only complaints that we get in regard to those is when they're not working.
And if they're not working, they have to either stop in one position or turn off.
Yes, sir.
Let me say, I was a big fan of the changeable copy right from the beginning. Number one, I heard all of the fears about how bright they would be, and especially with the billboards, and Chief's already gone. I was wondering if we had any documentation where any of those billboards caused any collisions, number one. But let me say, the other side of this coin is, these changeable copy signs, they are so much cleaner. And, you know, and the other side, when you ride down, you see the sign that somebody's, I think about the days when I worked at the Camelot Theater, now that goes back a few days, and you had that.
Misspelled words.
You had that.
With lantern light?
And you had to, you know, push them up
Letters
in place
falling
up
off.
there like that. And, you know, it was good if they stayed, and then it is what it is if they didn't. And plus the wind would blow them off. I mean, you know, all around, it's just a much, as some folks use this phrase, aesthetically pleasing for our neighborhood, especially in our city. And I think, again, you know, there's nothing better to me for signs than the electronic signs and the changeable copy.
And the thing that made us bring this up as staff is the advancements that have come in those signs. Whenever they first came in here, y'all, they were this thick. Now they're just as thin as a TV. And the picture's so much clearer. I mean, the pixels are so much better, and they've fallen into more of an affordable range now, too, for everyone to be able to take advantage of it.
Thank you, Ken. Okay, any other discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
You too, Kim.
Yes, sir.
First reading of ordinance 2024-64.
First reading of ordinance 2024-64 to amend a lease denominated as the agreement of lease between the City of Myrtle Beach and County of Horry as landlords and the Durham Bulls Baseball Club Incorporated as tenant, dated as of September 1st, 1998, deleting unnecessary terms reflecting the true parties in interest and providing for the extension of lease for 1 year.
Yes, ma'am. This is, as Jennifer just read, an extension of the lease with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans to allow them to play baseball at the current facility for the 2025 season. It expires, I think, 30 days after the 2025 season. It's the exact same lease and extension that this will be the fourth one, so we've done 3 of them previous. This is identical to that. There are no changes. The county does have a copy of it. I'd also like to take the motion up after this to explain that as well right now, if I can have the opportunity to do that. You see, that's for $1.3 million. That's just to do some repairs that we need to do to the facility in order to allow people in the building for the 2025 season. It's up to 1.3. We fully expect that to come in a lot less than that. County, we were responsible for 70% of that. The county will be responsible for 30% of that. It is critical needs, some rafter repairs, some concrete spalling, and some railing repair. There is no additional changes to the contract whatsoever. We're still in negotiations with the team. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2024-64?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Ms. Hatley, second from Mr. Smith. Any discussion from council?
Fox, just to reiterate real quick, the improvements we're talking about, that 1.3 million, we would need to do that even if we weren't going to use it for baseball, we were going to use it for music festivals or anything else. It's just, it has to happen.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
And it's funded with cash?
Yes, sir.
This is an extension of the previous lease, the lease we've had with them. And is there a chance that MLB could come in and say no to this lease extension because the stadium does not meet the new PDL standards?
We don't think so. We have had conversations with the Major League Baseball front office, and as long as their lease and there isn't any substantial or changes to it, that they would look favorably upon this.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? Any questions from the public? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. And as you heard the city manager say, we will continue to work diligently with the team's owner to come to a more long-term arrangement. Motion 2024-81.
Motion 2024-81 to allocate up to $1,300,000 of hospitality tax revenue to the baseball stadium fund for the purpose of funding the city's portion, 70%, of costs associated with engineering and construction of necessary repair and/or renovations to the baseball stadium to accommodate operation for the coming season.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Motion 2024-81.
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Smith, second from Mrs. Hatley. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion 2024-82.
Motion 2024-82 to reappoint 2 members to the Beach Advisory Committee.
The terms of Steve Taylor, who is the chairman of this committee, and Gordon Hirsch expire on October 10th. Both wish for reappointment. On file are the resumes of Brittany Marie Sakoti, city resident, Cynthia Morgan Bonner, city resident, Dale Lancaster, city resident, Micah Rodriguez, non-city resident, and Shayna Pyle, non-resident. The new expiration dates for both seats are October 10th, 2027.
Motion to reappoint Mr. Taylor and Mr. Hirsch.
Second.
Motion for Mr. Louder to reappoint Mr. Taylor and Mr. Hirsch, and a second from Ms. Hatley. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion 2024-83.
Motion 2024-83 to declare certain vehicles abandoned or derelict pursuant to the authority of Article 41 of Title 56, South Carolina Code of Laws, 2001.
Okay, and once these vehicles are on the screen, we will ask if there is anyone here who represents them. And I will ask if there is a motion to declare.
Motion to declare.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any non-agenda items from the public?
No, Your Honor.
You're not the public.
I'm better than that. I meant to say something earlier. I would like to commend and thank Kelly Mezzapelli for the presentation that she did today in regard to the market walk out there. That was a very complicated presentation. She simplified it. She dug deep, and I think she did one heck of a job in regard to that, and I thank her for that.
Thank you. I agree.
I agree.
Are you going to put a little extra in her paycheck there, Ken?
Okay, we have two executive session items. The first is a motion to go into executive session to discuss negotiations concerning proposed contractual arrangements to lease part of Whispering Pines tract for development of new recreational venue, and the second to discuss acquisition of property in the Arts and Innovation District. We will invite Fox Simons, Will Bryan, Brian Tucker, Josh Bruger, Marla Bell, Meredith Denary, and Amy Newshafer. I will need to recuse myself from both of these items. On the first one, because my husband is the broker in charge for that development, and the second, because my company is the property owner. So Jen and I have already done the proper paperwork for both of those. So is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Louder, second from Dr. Connor. Any discussion from council? Any discussion from the public? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries. Are y'all going in the side room, or do you want me to go in the side room? I don't care.
Might as well do it here.
Okay.
Goodbye, Mayor.
Jen, let's go to the frigid air.
Okay,
The fridge.
it's cold in there.